Hello, and welcome to MoviePod, a reclaimed cinema podcast. I'm your host, Brian Wishart. So, it's Christmas this week, and to celebrate, we are going to be talking about a film that had a bit of a moderately positive reception upon release. It's an adaptation of A Christmas Carol, done with some puppets known as the Muppets. People back then thought it was a fun little movie, good songs, but people thought it was not one of the best Dickens adaptations. But now it is considered one of the best Christmas movies of all time, as well as an incredible Dickens adaptation that really gets the language and spirit of the Dickens work. This week, I'm joined by my sister, Andrea Wishart, to discuss The Muppet Christmas Carol from 1992. How's it going, Andrea?
It's going great. I just watched it this morning, so I'm feeling good.
Isn't it so weird? So we've watched this movie as a family every Christmas Eve forever. So it was weird. I saw this couple nights ago at Highland Cinema. They're playing in the theater there, and it felt so early to watch the movie.
Yeah, because we always watch it on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And even watching it today, which is it's the 19th today, I felt like I was cheating by watching it so early. And to be honest, I didn't really give it my full attention. I was kind of half facing away. I was knitting while I was watching it. I was looking up some stuff about the movie and Dickens and the original novella, I guess, while I was doing it, because I was I can't fully commit to it. I normally never watch it in the morning. I normally never watch it this early, and I normally never watch it alone either. I don't think I've ever watched it alone. So in my mind, it was I'm doing a little refresh just for the sake of the podcast, but in my actual celebration of Christmas, I have not watched it yet because it is not been on Christmas Eve.
Because I seeing in the theater, I'm locked in watching the movie. I don't have the distractions around me, don't have the family around me, don't have the dog around me. I can't just go up and get a drink at some point in time. So I was more focused than I kind of ever was watching this movie. And it was, of course, a total delight. This movie is incredible.
It gets better every year too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm gonna get sick of it eventually, but and some people find, and I'm sure you've come across this in a lot of conversations about movies with tons of people over the years, but some people find learning more about the movie kind of ruins the magic. Whereas this one, the more that I find out about the production or everything kind of behind it, the more I'm this is actually just pure lightning in a bottle. It is one of the best movies, period. Not just best Dickens adaptation, not just best Christmas movie. It is an absolute masterpiece of a film. And for so many good reasons that I'm so excited to talk to you about.
Yeah, that's kind of our history of the movie too. Because I assume we have the exact same history with the movie, in which this movie comes out in 1992. I'm just going to double check that because a lot. Muppets.
Yeah, it is 92.
So this movie comes out in 1992. I am 1 year old at this point in time. You are 3 or 4. And so we didn't see it in the theater, but we have the VHS tape, which I should have pulled it out actually, but that's a very well-worn VHS tape because we watched movies a lot in repeats as kids. So this is a movie that I've seen no less than 30 times, easily. It's probably one of the most watched movies ever just because we got when you're so young, and it's been a tradition for our family for so long to watch it consistently every single year. So we never saw it in the theater. So it was a delight for me to see it the other day in a cinema. And it was packed. It was for a Wednesday evening show, it was half full. People were really responding to it, laughing a lot. It was a total delight.
It would be so cool to see it with other people in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the Highland too is that people go there to actually enjoy movies. They're not when you go to Cineplex or whatever. I don't go to movies anymore. Honestly, the only film I've seen in a theater since January of 2020 was at the Highland. And I think that's the only place I'll ever watch movies going forward. And I don't even live in Ontario anymore, let alone London. That is how dedicated I am, because the crowd there is so good. They're there to enjoy the movie. They're there to get into it. They're not on their phones. They're not kicking the backs of seats. It is a film loving crowd. So I can only imagine that watching this absolute treasure of a film in that environment would be just mind blowingly fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you ever get a chance to see Muppet Christmas Carol in a theater, absolutely take it. It's just so the music's wonderful. And that's one thing that critics love from the get go is everyone loved the music. The music is something that everyone kind of grasps, this is really good, even if you aren't the Muppet humor, aren't into the, is it a good Dickens adaptation or not? The music's great, and Paul Williams did all the music, and he's the longtime Muppet collaborator for them. He did the music for, the Muppet movie, and I think all the movies. I'm not sure we did Muppet Treasure Island or not.
I'm not sure, but Muppet Treasure Island was also easily one of the best Muppet movies ever.
Mm-hmm. That one we may have seen in theaters.
That one I think we did because we were a
Yeah.
little bit older when it
Hmm.
came out. I remember all the McDonald's toy.
Yeah.
We still have kicking around someplace, but
Hmm. We don't throw
the
anything
music,
away.
yeah, the music always stuck out. And like you and I both did concert band, like in high school. You and I both like learned instruments. You were on saxophone and I was on flute because you could pop it in a backpack and carry it home. So I was smart on that front.
I was
And
not
I
smart
think,
on a saxophone. That thing was heavy.
yeah, but I mean, so you and I, not that we're necessarily like like hardcore musicians going forward, but we at least had like musical theory education, like musical like practice, and we're in those kind of concert bands to appreciate like a good score and that kind of style of a music score too, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I like it too because it's so French horn forward, and it's got that warmth to the music that you don't really get in a lot of other film scores that tend to be more reliant on strings. Usually if you've got those really big, bombastic film scores, they tend to be really string forward, whereas I find the Muppet Christmas Carol is just as good. I cannot believe it was not up for Oscars. Like, it's so good. It is absolutely an incredible score, and if you can find just some of the soundtrack online, even just to hear the score behind it, rather than necessarily the sung parts, but just the music kind of part itself, it's a really well written score because it tells you like the story through, which we will get to, I'm sure, because I have beef with you.
Oh, we have major beef with this movie or one part of it, specific part. We'll get to it for sure, and that's going to be a pretty long debate and tirade. Yeah, so Muppet Christmas Carol, so Jim Henson died in 1990, and his son Brian took over the company from the Muppet Company there. And so they didn't have a movie really planned, but the talent agent Bill Haber came up to Brian Henson with the idea of adapting Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol into a movie. Actually, not into a movie, into just anything, because it was this guy's favorite story in general. So the Muppets Company, they were going to initially make this into a TV special. And then they saw the script and said, like, hey, like, this is probably good enough to actually turn into a feature film. Longtime Muppet writer Jerry Jewell, he was the one that adapted the story to include the Muppets. It sounded like the initial early drafts was that it's going to be very, very light and comedic. The big way you can tell with this is that they went through ideas like, okay, how do we get the Muppets involved with Christmas Carol? A lot of the various ideas had the Muppets playing all the ghosts and stuff. So Robin or Scooter were going to play the Ghost of Christmas Past. Miss Piggy was often toyed with playing the Ghost of Christmas Present. And Ghost of Christmas Future, which is like the darkest part of the movie. They're going to have like either Gonzo or Animal play him, which
is such a weird film,
yeah,
unbearable, I think.
But yeah, and you can absolutely see why they would do this, because like if you're trying to make a TV special that's going to appeal to families and kids and such, if you want to keep it light the entire time, you have Muppets playing these kind of dark roles. And Brian Henson said at one point that what really works with this movie is that you have like someone like Ebenezer Scrooge, who kind of reflects the Charles Dickens of it all. He's speaking Dickensian dialogue, and you have the Muppets kind of being the counterbalance to it. So you have like the Muppets on one side, they're giving some levity to the film, but you have the Dickens element of Scrooge and the direct Charles Dickens dialogue to kind of balance out, kind of make it appealing to both kids and adults. And I think that's what makes it a really fascinating movie, is because you can easily see this movie being, we've seen a million versions of Christmas Carol, which are so like strict to the book, which like have like some dark versions, they're kind of mean, nasty and stuff with none of the levity. But you can also imagine like there's that, it's like Mickey's Christmas Carol, like the Disney version of that, where it's a lot, has some sad things here and there, but it's very, very light. It's very much geared towards kids. I think the best kids movies are the ones that don't treat kids like they're absolute babies and darkness. Like we both of us were obsessed with like Beauty and the Beast and Lion King as kids, and those movies have some pretty dark parts to it, like pretty scary parts, like the wolves in Beauty and the Beast, or like the wildebeest and Lion King. And kids love being scared. They truly do. Like,
yeah. And even if you look at like the books that were written for kids like longer ago, like we were really little when we were reading like Chronicles of Narnia and stuff, and those are like, they feature children and they're marketed to children, but they're not light, fluffy, the equivalent of like kids fare on TV and stuff nowadays. Like, I think people are starting to come back around and to the idea of like kids can handle things. So you don't need to traumatize them, but like they have a range of emotions, and and they might not necessarily get the whole depth to it quite yet when they're 5 or 1, I guess, in your case, when you were watching this. But it's also, those are real things. Like those are real emotions that people experience. And honestly, for this particular film, the fact that it has darker themes fits in with, first of all, Dickens' real life, because he was working in a blacking factory when his father went to debtor's prison. And so that was very much Dickens' actual childhood. It was very standard for a Victorian era childhood, was like, there was no childhood. Like, there wasn't a childhood. The idea of childhood is like a relatively modern one of like keeping kids like entertained and light and fluffy and entertaining like until they're way older. And then all of a sudden, life hits them with a brick wall. Whereas I think movies like this and, A Christmas Carol was never meant to be a children's story by any means. But there's so many good lessons in there to be learned. And there's so many ways that people have tried to adapt it to make it appealing to children, but I don't know that the message necessarily gets through the same way. And I think to get the message through and in a way that still doesn't traumatize the kids, but like treats them like real people with real emotions, is something like this that has that gravity in it, because you have someone like Michael Caine playing a completely straight, non-Muppety character. You have, like, I remember honestly being quite scared of the ghost of the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, which is the point, but at the same time, it's not so traumatic that like I'm scarred for life. But I go to that, I go back to this movie every single year. So, and I know that different kids are sensitive to different things and different ages maybe, but it's dark in a way that's serious at points. But the Muppets obviously offer that like lightness that still make it a kid's movie. And in that way, I think the whole film is like one of the best ways to get children into serious literature.
Because there's that one great line Gonzo has, like, oh, like, is it too scary? Like Rizzo says, like, oh, don't worry, it's culture. Like, it's good for the kids.
Exactly.
Which is so true. Like, I was reading something about how, what movie did I see recently? Oh, it's Zootopia 2. So there's a part in Zootopia 2 where the villain from the last movie is like locked up in a cell, and they're going to make an entire Silence of the Lambs extended riff. I think they filmed it, wrote it out and everything, but then they cut it out because kids won't get the joke. But with all the kids that we grew up, especially stuff like, maybe not entirely designed for kids, but Simpsons, for example, or stuff like Animaniacs, all these TV shows, all these cartoons, having all these pop culture references gives you a kids an entryway into like the monoculture that all the adults are in. Like, have you seen Casablanca?
Yes.
Yeah. But like when you saw Casablanca, you're probably just like, well, I get all these references from other things I've already seen before. And it's kind of a fun way where kids like can kind of get into the culture too by learning these things. Like, this is a great entryway for Charles Dickens for kids, even if they're never going to read a Charles Dickens book. It's like, oh, and now I can kind of fit in with everyone else when they're talking about Dickens. Yeah,
and you get the references. And I would argue too that this film does, and more than any other adaptation I've ever seen of A Christmas Carol, and more than a lot of adaptations I've seen just of stories in general, the storytelling devices that they have in this film are absolutely a masterclass in teaching kids, first of all, like using real Dickens lines, like lines that Dickens wrote. There is so much actual, like, just riffed right from A Christmas Carol put into the script of this movie. That's incredible. And so it doesn't have to be dumbed down for kids. It doesn't have to be made into like, modern, like street language kind of thing, because it's presented in such a way that things are explained as they go through. Like when Gonzo says that he's omniscient, and this is how I learned what the word omniscient meant as like a very small child, because they explain it to you and it's in context, and like all of a sudden, I mean, and you have to remember too, like a lot of kids, myself included, like we're like dinosaur kids, right? Like when you're 4 years old and you can list off like Brachiosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, like all these, like kids aren't stupid. They just haven't learned everything yet. And so treating kids as like an opportunity to learn, an opportunity, you can still use these big words. You might just have to take a second and explain it. And that's why I think not only having Gonzo as the main narrator as Dickens, but then having Rizzo to play off to explain some of these things is such a brilliant device for telling the story in a way that keeps it true to the book, keeps it relevant for kids to actually access it and understand it, and overall keeps it like light even when they're digging into the darker stuff.
And like with Jerry Jewell said that they came with the idea like, okay, what if we have a Muppet narrator playing Charles Dickens? And they thought like, who would be the most unlikely Muppet to be Charles Dickens? And they thought Gonzo would be the funniest. And they're right. And like, because Gonzo is like the most sophisticated Muppet out there. They said like, well, we'll add Rizzo too, so they can bounce off one another. And it's such a fantastic pairing of two Muppets that like, I don't think they're really paired off that often in the Muppet Show or anything. And like, they become like, with Muppet Treasure Island, they pair Gonzo and Rizzo yet again, and it's comedic brilliance. They are so much fun together. The masterstroke of this movie is truly having Michael Caine play Scrooge.
Oh, yeah.
And when it was supposed to be just a TV special, they're considering like George Carlin to be Scrooge. And also consider like the Shakespearean actors David Hemmings and Ron Moody. Another guy they consider was David Warner. David Warner, you would know Andrea from Titanic as Lovejoy.
Mm-hmm. It would be so serious then. Like, even though Michael Caine plays it absolutely straight, absolutely like everyone on the set with him is a fellow Royal Shakespeare Company actor, there's still a spark to him that, like, no offense to Warner, I've really only seen him in Titanic, so like...
But he's a very straight-laced guy when it comes to all of the roles I've seen him in. Like, yeah. There's a warmth to Michael Caine. Yes,
even when he is like, and he's terrifying when he's being a scary Scrooge. Like when he, threatens the rats and the frog with being on the unemployment line. When he chucks the wreath at Bean Bunny, who's just trying to sing a Christmas carol. Like there's moments where he's genuinely chilling. It's terrifying because he can really, like, in a way that like Ralph Fiennes can do too, where you can just run cold and you can just see coldness all the way through. But it is really easy for him to turn like even just the tiniest pilot light of warmth back on. So like it's still safe even when he's being his scariest in a way.
And Caine had this great line when it comes to when he offered the role for the part was like, I'm going to play this movie like I'm working with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I will never wink. I'll never do anything Muppety. I'm going to play Scrooge as if it is an utterly dramatic role and there are no puppets around me, which he does.
Absolutely. I would argue like the one thing he does that's like maybe Muppety in the finale at the end when they're all going through the streets. They're, he's handing out money and he's handing food out to people and gifts, and they're on their way to the Cratchit's house for Christmas dinner. And he does like he's got his hands up in the air and he does like a little bit of a dance, just like a little bit, but it's still within the realm of a serious Scrooge character if you were thrown into a musical, but it's still not Muppety. It seems maybe it's approaching that just because it went from being so cold and so calculating and so miserly the whole way through that like any kind of warmth at all is like, oh, he is a real person. And it's funny because in this, he's the only real person. Like he's actually the only real human in the whole thing, save for Cousin Fred and Clara pretty much. Or nephew Fred, I guess. Yeah. And everyone else is a Muppet, and yet he treats it completely like this is real life. This is not a movie. This is not a play. This is like pure life.
And like Muppet performers were like commenting too about how like the way that Michael Caine would look at the puppets was different than other actors they've worked with before. And like this is the first like Muppet movie where they've actually had Muppets playing characters rather than just Muppets being themselves. And like so it's kind of a bit of a meta thing too, where it's like it's Kermit, someone playing Kermit the Frog, but Kermit the Frog is playing Bob Cratchit.
Yeah.
Which is such a fun way to do a movie where it's you and the opening credits, like it's being get right to the movie where the opening credits have like, Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge, and they have like, and Kermit the Frog as Bob Cratchit, and Miss Piggy as Emily Cratchit. Like they treat it as if like the Muppets are real people.
And I think that's the magic of the Muppets, just like in like our world that we live in, is like they're treated like they are celebrities. They find that when they're chatting with kids, like the Muppets are talking to kids, like kids don't notice the puppeteer. They look at Elmo, they look at Kermit as real, like they're talking to Kermit the Frog, and they're the way that they maneuver these puppets, and I don't even see them as puppets. Like I see Kermit the Frog like as a celebrity. And the really funny thing is, so I rarely watch The Amazing Race, but the finale was on after was it Survivor or whatever last week or 2 weeks ago. So we just watched it through because like I was on the couch knitting, and I was like, I'll just finish watching it, just kind of see what's up with the show. And the last part of the show, they were in New York City, and one of their tasks was to go go to what ended up being the Sesame Street studio in New York. And they go in, and these are like grown adults. They're in a race. They're trying to win like $1 million. They've been all over the world, like doing like, they rappelled down the Empire State Building. Like they have to do all these crazy things. They go in and Cookie Monster is waiting for them. And they're like, holy crap, it's Cookie Monster. And they're losing. These are like grown people. And like to them, Cookie Monster is a celebrity. It's like a celebrity from their childhood. And maybe they coached them behind, but I doubt it, because like everything's such a surprise on The Amazing Race. Like they don't know. You walk in, there's Cookie Monster, and they're talking right to Cookie Monster. And they're like, oh my God, like as they're leaving, like, I can't believe we just got to meet Cookie Monster. And like Oscar the Grouch came out, and that was like, Oscar's here too. Like adults that know better and know that there's probably two humans behind the little walls, like creating these. Like grown ass humans are interacting with them like they're celebrities, because they know them as, so it's really easy then to see Kermit the Frog as someone that could play a dramatic role. And I think that's why, Muppet Treasure Island worked so well too, is because again, they're kind of in that, here's this celebrity. It happens to be a felt green puppet, that frog shaped thing. But everyone knows that it's a celebrity, and it allows them to like occupy those roles. And I do have to say, the funniest thing about those opening credits is like, the great Gonzo as Charles Dickens, and then Rizzo the Rat as himself. It's just perfect. It's like Rizzo's really the only one doing an actual cameo in the whole thing, because everyone else is playing a role.
Yeah, so after the credits, like we go towards it's 19th century London, and we get to this. What's cool about this movie is that it's clearly like all the houses there, they're very Victorian, but like it's also like the scale of them is kind of weird and different. So it's kind of like very almost cartoony in a way, like how it all looks. But like as we go down towards like the street and everything, you see like human beings just like wandering around doing their very Christmassy things, buying stuff. But there's all kinds of Muppets just hanging out in windows and stuff. Just like there's there's just so many different creatures designs, and it's so fascinating because like it's so impressive, because literally every shot with a Muppet in a movie is a visual effects shot. So it's a lot of work. It's not just like you have to have a puppeteer doing something to make the puppet seem alive. And there's so many Muppets in this movie that like it's kind of mind-boggling how they're able to even do this and make it seem so lively.
Yeah, because you never see one just sitting still. It's not like, we can get away with just putting the Muppet lobsters in the window, but they don't have to move. No, the Muppet lobsters that are hanging out the window. 1840s London are also moving and interacting, because like, why wouldn't the Christmas lobsters be in the windows in 1843 in London? Like, it's just a given. And the fact that they put so much effort into like making these characters animated, and they never take a shortcut. Whether it's in obviously the acting, whether it's in the script, the score, there's the costumes on this too, which we could do a whole podcast just on the costuming, because that is some of the most accurate costuming that's ever been done for this adaptation.
And also, like, you're not just dressing up like Michael Caine as someone from 19th century London. You're dressing up Kermit the Frog and that stuff too. You're having to make little costumes with little puppets and have it be all period accurate.
And it's really interesting because not Scrooge so much, because obviously he's a miser. He doesn't like to spend money. He's not keeping up on trends. But a lot of the costumes that you see in some of the bigger scenes are very much like what people would have been wearing in 1843 when this was written. And Charles Dickens knocked out A Christmas Carol in like 6 or 8 weeks, something like that. Like he just wrote it down. It was like, honestly, Taylor Swift doing like Georgia Poets Department, just like a brain dump of like a masterpiece. But then when you then go into like the Cratchit's house, even though it would have still been like, and you have to remember, people didn't have fast fashion back then, so people tended to hang on clothes for longer. But the poorer people, so the Cratchits, for instance, like Emily Cratchit's costume is something that would have been closer to something maybe in like even the 1790s. Because the idea being that she wouldn't have had the money to keep up on the latest trends. She wouldn't have been wearing a style of clothing that came out even just in the late 1830s. She'd probably have a dress at home that had been around for like quite a while. And so there's actually like a stratification age-wise of some of the costumes that align with some of the social classes that you're seeing in this too. And so, I mean, the costume department, honestly, they could have probably got away with phoning it in. They went so hard on this that, again, I don't know why they weren't nominated for costuming, because, you know, it's arguably even harder to scale all these period correct things down to fitting it on a bear, fitting it on a frog, on a rat. Like, at least with people, yes, people come in different shapes and sizes, but they're generally shaped like humans. Whereas they're trying to get like the witch, some of those like other like turnipy looking Muppets, the business pigs, like they're all in these different outfits. Like the business pigs are dapper. They've got, you know, pretty modern clothing, and then you've got, you know, somebody like Tiny Tim that's like, it's kind of scraps put together. And so like that on its own is like a whole thing where people that are professional costumers are like all about this movie because of the care that was put into it. When, again, if it was just a kid's movie, and you see this a lot with like modern productions of things, is like make it light, make it really colorful and really busy and kind of dumbed down and not have the adult themes in there. And it's why adults don't want to watch these things anymore. But it's also what keeps people coming back to something like the Muppets, because there's always something new to find and always something new to appreciate about it.
You see Gonzo and Rizzo, they're selling apples, and Rizzo is eating all the apples, like, you know, like, eat them while, buy them while they last, and like, it makes a joke about, like, you know, if he eats them all up now, it drives up prices because of scarcity. And then Gonzo's like, oh, hello, like, you know, welcome to the Muppet Christmas Carol. So you get the full title drop, the name of the movie. It's like, I am Charles Dickens, and I'm Rizzo the Rat. Like, wait a minute, you're not Charles Dickens. And so the conceit is like, Gonzo is like, you know, playing the narrator. He's playing Charles Dickens, and he's speaking dialogue right from the book, and he's omniscient. He knows everything's going to happen with it, and Rizzo's kind of just tagging along. So they're talking about how, like, you know, this is, you know, story about Ebenezer Scrooge, and he's going to be coming around the corner. When? Now. Like, just about, when's he going to be here? He's going to be here. When? Now. And then we get to our first song in the movie, which is Scrooge by the Muppet Cast. And it's like, so Scrooge is like coming around town. It's Michael Caine, and it's like very, very dark. The way he's stepping is very loud. And like basically it's just a diss track of everyone shitting on Ebenezer Scrooge.
It's like, so good. And I've seen, there's been a few like memes going around like on Reels and TikTok and stuff of like everyone, like it's literally like, there goes Mr. Asshole, there goes Mr. Bitch. Like, just like the whole town has clearly come together and orchestrated this whole thing to sing behind his back. And anytime he turns around, they're like, oh wow, the time flies, and just move on. And it's like, it's a brilliant, it just drives home all these points of like how awful Scrooge is, why he's awful in a nutshell, without having to really go too much into a backstory. Because we don't know why yet. We just know that he's nasty and mean. And so it kind of sets up this, really at that point, a very one-dimensional evil character who's just like this nasty, mean, awful person that makes everyone miserable. There's that little choir of the women that are like, oh, he must be lonely and sad. Nah, he's still just a jerk. And they keep going with that. And then it's not till later, obviously, that you like dig in and you're like, oh, there is a reason, there is a backstory. But it does a really good job of setting it up as like, nobody likes this guy. And
like there's parts of the song like talk about like how he like has these dark and drafty houses he sells to people, and also like doesn't give anything to the people in need, and there's no cheeses for the Mises. These very tiny little mice Muppets, and they get no cheese.
Yeah, the no cheeses for us Mises is just like so sad. And when the littlest one is like, please sir, I want some cheese, which is obviously such a good reference to another Dickens classic, which is Oliver Twist, when he says, please sir, may I have some more, because he's out of gruel or whatever they were feeding the children in the orphanage or whatever at the time. And so like even that line, it's so like, not only do you have to understand like movies and the Muppets and that kind of stuff, but like it's when you have read multiple Dickens stories to be able to piece together, you know, those themes in there too. And again, a really lovely introduction, if you hadn't already been reading Dickens, to some of these stories.
Yeah, and like so like, he's just walking down the street, but he's going to work, and he's going to work at a mortgage firm there, and so it's Marley and Scrooge, as the place calls. So he gets into work there, and like the final thing people are yelling like every day and every way Scrooge is getting worse, and then like he gives a good stare at all the Muppets, and like oh, like what was the time? Like, oh, we gotta get going. Like he's catching all like, hey, everyone's just shit talking me, like bah humbug, and goes into the office there, and there at work, there's Kermit the Frog playing Bob Cratchit. He works there along with a bunch of other rat Muppets. So he's a so it's not really. Is it a mortgage firm or is it a moneylenders or this? I guess same kind of thing, right?
It's like a mortgage firm, yeah. Which I have to say, not only did this movie introduce me to plot devices like an omniscient narrator, it introduced me to economics through Rizzo driving up prices through scarcity and his apple eating. It introduced me to the idea of mortgages and money lending. Honestly, this movie is like the foundation for so much of my day-to-day knowledge.
So as work there, he's like, being surly, kind of pissed off at everything. He gets, his nephew Fred shows up, and his nephew Fred is like so optimistic and upbeat and everything. He's like, oh, we have everything to celebrate with. Like, Uncle, it's Christmas. We should, of course, be celebrating. And you get two people who come in there who are, raising money for charity. It's played by Dr. Benson Honeydew and Beaker. And he asks like, hey, like, how much money would you want to like give towards the poor? And Scrooge's like, nothing. And it's like, oh, so I hear that right? Like nothing at all. And Scrooge has this one. It's a classic line of like, my money goes towards like the prisons and poorhouses. So if my taxes go there already, so why do you give any more money this Christmas? And Benson, Honeydew, and Beaker are so like flabbergasted and upset by this. And at least Fred's able to give them some money. And so like Scrooge like scares him off. And there's another one, another Muppet that comes in there who's like asking, like, for some forgiveness on the fact he's behind his loans too. And Scrooge basically like, his Muppet gives like a whole like sad thing, like, please don't yell at me, Mr. Scrooge. And Scrooge, Michael Caine doesn't yell at him at all, but he picks him up and like throws him out. I was like, thank you for not yelling at me.
That's one of my favorite lines. Thank you for not yelling at me. But I do have to say, you know what? Scrooge does have a point, and that I do think you should open your heart and give to charity. Obviously things aren't working properly, which like we see in this day and age. Like the government should be having the social safety nets in place so that people are not behind on their mortgages, so that people do not have to go to poorhouses and things like that. Like, he's paying taxes. Why are these policies not being implemented? Why are they not actually being put in place where they're helping the people so that then charities don't have to come in and swoop in?
And at least it sounds like he's paying taxes, which is nice for a rich person.
He is paying taxes, but like I live in Saskatoon. I know a lot of cities in Canada are experiencing this too, where like your taxes keep going up every year, and like those are social services that the government should be putting in place, and yet they're still shutting down things like harm reduction and that sort of thing. So then you do have to rely on charity to come in and fill in the blanks, but then you rely on people like Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker to like be filling in the gaps when it's really at the end of the day a government failure. So I do not fault Scrooge for pointing out paying taxes. Why aren't they being used to facilitate these social safety nets? But he's still a jerk because of how he's still a jerk.
Yeah, it's probably his member of parliament's a real shitbag too that keeps voting for all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we get this one caroler comes along who's played by Bean Bunny, or I guess Bean Bunny's the name of the character. And he's a cute little bunny thing. He's even on the cover of the movie. And
he's damn cute.
Yeah, and Scrooge like throws a reef at him.
Yeah, there's actually interviews with Michael Caine, multiple interviews, where he's like, there's this little character called Bean Bunny. He's the cutest thing. Michael Caine's favorite character in the whole movie was Bean Bunny and getting to work with Bean Bunny. Yeah. And if you see, I saw it was like a Instagram or like a Blue Sky post or something, like I can tell how somebody votes by the way that they react and feel when you see the shot of little Bean Bunny in a paper bag shivering in the cold at night. If your heart does not actually break, I know exactly who you vote for. Yeah. If you're the kind of person like, why should I feel sad? It's just a little puppet. Like, no, just get some whimsy. If
Yeah, it
you're
is.
not getting your heartstrings pulled by Bean Bunny shivering in a paper bag at night on Christmas Eve, like, I got nothing.
And this movie looks cold. Like the production design is really good. So it looks like, clearly they filmed this like on like some soundstage in England, but like it looks like it's a very cold place. Like everyone's bundled up. Like it looks freezing. And so the at the business there, so Kermit, and I know that this is based on like a book, and I know it's Bob Cratchit or stuff like that, but I've seen this so many times. I was referring to them by their Muppet name. So Kermit the Frog is Bob Cratchit, but yeah, so Kermit the Frog and the other bookkeeper is like, hey, like it's so cold here, can we get some extra coal for the fire? Also, can we get like Christmas Day off tomorrow? Scrooge's like, what the fuck? Like, why would you ask for Christmas Day off as if it was his first Christmas ever? And so like Kermit is able to convince Scrooge, like, they have no one to do business with, all other businesses are closed, and Scrooge's like, hey, fine, like, you get the day off tomorrow, but like, be in earlier the next day. So at this point, we get Scrooge leaves, and we get this one little lovely like little song by Kermit, which is like One More Sleep Till Christmas, where all him and all the bookkeepers are closing up the business there, and they're walking down the street singing all like festively, but how great it is Christmas is and everything. So we get some actual Christmas joy, whereas Scrooge is such a dark presence, he doesn't really care about it. And what's nice about this song too, the way this whole movie's paced, is that we get a lot of light parts compared to the dark parts. So like, we see like Scrooge just like whip out like wreaths at carolers and stuff like that. But then instead of like cutting back to Scrooge, like back at his house next, we get a nice little song of the Muppets feeling joy and such, and joy such as them walk like, oh yeah, here's the Penguins Christmas skating party,
as if that's the most natural thing to come across in London.
Yeah.
Of course there's penguins having a skating party in the square.
Yeah, and it's a very lovely song, and like Kermit's all. I love Kermit the Frog singing voice so much.
Yeah, it's good.
And so like so all they they're the rats all go the separate way. Kermit sees like a shooting star. He's all like happy and everything, and then he has like his one little like, kind of sad little look to his face as he leaves the scene, and that's when we see Bean Bunny all cold in the snow too. And we cut to Scrooge, and he's at his house and everything. As he's at his house, and he's about to open the door, but his doorknob transitioned to Waldorf from like Statler and Waldorf, so that the Muppets that just always heckle all the time, and he gets very spooked by it. And he's getting inside. He goes inside, and Rizzo and Gonzo are following Scrooge the entire movie, and. This is the great part where they're about to like they hop the fence to get over to see what's going on with Scrooge stuff, and Rizzo climbs the fence too, and it's like there's like two things I'm afraid of: it's heights and falling from them. And
God save my little broken body.
Yeah. And it's a fantastic running gag because literally every time Rizzo is up on someplace high, he hurts himself in a hilarious fashion.
Yeah, it's good. And then, as it turns out, later you find out that he fit through the bars the whole time.
Because he forgot his jelly beans the other side, so he just walks through.
It's so good. It's so brilliant. I do have to say, though, that scene of Scrooge going into his house, like, it's so detailed. It's so meticulous in how they describe, like, him going in and, like, not turning on the lights, or, like, lighting the lights, I should say, because electricity wasn't really that common back then. But like very miserly, and then like he's obviously tentatively going up because he's been spooked by the ghost of his former business partner, which obviously in the real Christmas Carol book, it was just Jacob Marley was but to take advantage of both Statler and Waldorf, and because again, those pop culture tie-ins, the fact that they added a character called Robert Marley, which obviously when we were tiny kids in the 90s, we're like, yeah, Jacob and Robert Marley, they're brothers, that makes sense. But like the adults would have been like, oh my God, Bob Marley, that is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I can't believe they snuck that in there. And like just a really good little throw in of pop culture that references not just other Dickens, but like really outside of it to like modern pop culture, which is one of the rare moments it does that in this film. But it's much more of, something you'd see through the regular Muppet shows or like Sesame Street and that kind of thing. But that's like a nice little addition and a way to really let those two come in as a pair because they are inseparable. They're awful. And then they have their whole song. But even before it goes into the song, like again, more lines that you could run a quiz basically. Was this a Muppets line or is this an actual Dickens line? The more of gravy than of grave about you. Dickens wrote it. Like,
and Statler and Marley and Marley is like just I start laughing how cheesy and dumb the line is. But like that's the thing about Dickens though, is that Dickens writing has its humor to it too. So it's not like it's completely dry, boring stuff. And so one thing that this movie gets so right is that like Dickens stuff, with having the Dickens dialogue in there, really adds to the whole picture because you are getting to the base of the text. The dialogue feels natural because it is what was initially written. But this movie kind of has some fun with it too, where it's like, what if we were to have some puppets react to it? And like, so the ghost of Statler again, I'm going to always say the Muppet names, not the actual names, but Statler and Waldorf, like the ghosts that show up there, and they kind of spook Scrooge and everything. And so they start singing the song Marley and Marley about how, like, they were cursed, all these wicked deeds in life, and like they have stuff like, how they evicted an orphanage on Christmas Day, and there's all kinds of kids with their frostbitten teddy bears, kind of laughing at that. And they're all talking about how, like, they're in their afterlife, they're cursed these chains and stuff, like weighing them down. They're eternally tormented for their wicked deeds in life. And it kind of spooks Scrooge. And they give him the heads up, like, hey, like, you're going to be haunted by 3 ghosts tonight. And he's like, can you just haunt me all right now? Let's get it over with. It's like, no, like, the first ghost will come when the bell strikes 1. Oh, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, they're classic laughs. Like, it sets it up so well and gives you a little bit of insight as to who, well, Jacob Marley was, but obviously within the universe of the film, who the Marleys were. And like the efficient, because the running time isn't that long, really. It's not a particularly long movie.
It's 86 minutes if you don't include the song, but like if you want the full extended cut of the version, it's like 90 minutes even.
Yeah, it's a quick hitter, and they get so much story. I mean, granted, the story itself isn't overly long. It's a fairly quick read as far as Dickens go. Like, I remember in high school, I read David Copperfield for like by choice. You got to choose a book, and I chose David Copperfield. And so, Dickens definitely had his wordy things, but this is being one of his shorter ones. But there's so much in there. There's still so much in the novel or novella that normally wouldn't make it into some of this, but the really clever use of the music to tell the story gets so much more in there. So you get so much more like Christmas Carol for your buck. So like how you've got this picture painted of Scrooge being this nasty, mean, miserly person. You can see that Bob Cratchit is warm and he is excited for Christmas, and the town is excited for Christmas, and that, that kind of excitement over it. And then you get brought down again by the Marleys song that's like threatening. It really just is threatening at the end, is like, you better watch yourself or you're going to end up like us, completely enchained for the rest of eternity, and it's just going to get worse. You need to smarten up. And then like leads into, well, the real meat of the story.
The scariest ghost of them all, which is the ghost of Christmas Past. This little ginger doll is horrifying.
I'm assuming that they filmed it through like having her immersed in water or something.
Yeah,
like,
that's what they did, yeah.
Yeah, and it's terrifying. Like, the face is not human. When he touches her hand, it's like this weird little porcelain doll hand. Like, that gives me the creeps, but in a way that most Victorian dolls give me the creeps. Like, Victorian porcelain dolls just have a way of just being, and it's a device that's used in a lot of films too, right? Like, there's something really unsettling about dolls.
And also the voice. They're like, oh, I'm a creepy little girl doll.
I can remember nearly 1900 years.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. She scares me so much more than the ghost of Christmas.
Same, yeah. But she's the one that digs up the most shit on Scrooge. Like, she's the one that traumatizes him the most.
Well, and with good reason, because like everyone, like in the very first song, is like, wow, he's just mean and nasty. Maybe it's because he's lonely and sad. There must be a reason. And then they're like, nah. Yeah. And so like there's like a hair of maybe there could be some sympathy, but then they write it off so quickly. And it seems like no one else has ever thought maybe something happened in his past that like led to him being so cranky this day and age. And this is like the really cracks open everything about Scrooge.
Also, like, same time though, like when it comes to the rich fucks of today, like we think of Elon Musk, like, oh, like what happened to Elon Musk to make him so miserable and sad? What happened to like Peter Thiel make him so miserable and sad? Like, we know their entire biographies. Fuck them. Like,
yeah, but also they have not reached the redemption arc.
that's what I think. If I was a rich motherfucker and like, I don't know, one of these guys would be implicated in the Epstein shit or something like that, I would just do Christmas Day like this year. Like, I was visited by 3 ghosts. I'm a nice person now. I'm giving some money to charity. Back off, like investing in me for a little bit. Like, I'm surprised some rich person has not tried to do the whole 3 ghosts thing as a redemption thing.
Well, it's because they're actually pure evil.
They're absolutely pure evil, yeah. But like, it would be so funny if someone was just like, yeah, no, like, I'm like my politics are good now because I was visited by a ghost last night. So yeah, it's such a good, easy way out.
I've seen so many jokes too of like, maybe we should all be gathering and singing songs about how awful people are, you know, when the billionaires come out of their offices, like everyone just like jump scare them with like a song about how much
have like perfect choreography too. Do like a flash mob thing, like have it be like a really high production value thing to really scare them.
Public Victorian shaming.
Yeah. The Muppets would do.
Yeah, but it's interesting because like you can see that he's like quite a like stoic little child, and they say that he's at school, and it looks like a boarding school, which is also very typical of.
Oh yeah, so they go back in time with the ghost of Christmas Past, and Gonzo and Rizzo use a grappling hook to hook onto the ghost to like fly with them. And it's so funny when they're descending to the schoolhouse that Scrooge spent his youth in, and like the Gonzo and Rizzo just like go into like a tree line, and you hear a bunch of trees getting smashed together. And like Gonzo meets one of his chicken friends and everything, and Rizzo gets chased around by a cat Muppet.
Yep. Yeah, as he's like kind of comes down. It's like, oh, we're safe now that we're on solid ground, and then the cat's just like. It's just so good. And then of course, yeah, Gonzo sees a chicken and is like, oh, hello. Yeah. He's got the weird chicken thing. But it's interesting because you can see in Michael Caine's acting here, like he was cold, miserable and stuff. He just got the pants scared off of him like 20 minutes ago. And you start to see that kind of warmth come back. Like there's a hint already that he might be somewhat redeemable if he sees some of these things and his memories jogged again. So he's like, oh, like this is my old schoolhouse. Like that's me as a boy. Like he's like kind of realizing. And I think one thing, as I was watching it this morning, I think it sets it up so nicely that the way that Michael Caine plays Scrooge is so many questions being asked right from the get-go of the Ghost of Christmas Fair. Like, why did you bring me here? Like, oh, is this like that and the other thing? And it's something that carries through to all 3 ghosts, which then makes the final ghost, which we'll get to, but just some foreshadowing, when that ghost doesn't speak at all. And that whole scene of the future Christmas is carried by Michael Caine asking questions and getting answers that are non-verbal answers. But they didn't just have to do it in that scene to get the point across, because they set it up so early of him just constantly asking questions. Like he's actually quite an inquisitive Scrooge, rather than just being a passive, like standing there like, oh, you're showing me this. Oh yeah, I remember that. He's like asking as he's going through. And it's something that never really clicked to me before I watched it this morning. And I was like, oh, like he's like, kind of the script and the way that he's interacting with these scenes isn't just watching or seeing again. He's really chit-chatty. He's quite chatty, actually, with all these ghosts.
Yeah, and like this first one too, so like they established that you know, he's just, these are memories of his, so like he can't really, they won't be able to see him or the ghost or anything. So Scrooge is just observing his past, and he sees himself as like a schoolboy. So like everyone's gearing up to go home for Christmas. Like, oh, Ebenezer never goes home for Christmas. And like the shady little Scrooge kid is like, who cares about silly old Christmas? And like Ebenezer kind of looks at him, like Michael Caine looks at him like kind of like, you know, a bit of a, you know, sadness in his eyes, like, oh shit, like that's kind of a fucked up thing for me to say as a kid. And we kind of see him like go through like, oh, like the Christmases he had at the schoolhouse, and it's just very boring shit of him like getting an abacus out, him just doing the same thing over and over. So he had no real love for Christmas, because it sounds like other kids were going home for Christmas. You don't get like a really deep, dark backstory of like what Scrooge's family was like, but it doesn't sound like there was much love to begin with when it came to like, he sounds like he hated Christmas already as a kid. There was no real joy with it there at all. And so like he's talking to his headmaster, who's played by Sam the Eagle.
Purely American too.
Yeah, there's like one great. She was like, "You love business. Like it is the American way." Gonzo as Dickens, the narrator, comes up to the whispers like, "Hey Sam," pss, 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 pss. Like, And it's like, it is the British way. And Sam the Eagle has this one great like low response. Like, wait, what the fuck was like someone talking to me there? Like,
it's so good. But kind of going back to like Scrooge himself, like you don't like they reveal enough of his past to like realize like, okay, there's some like deep-seated hurt and stuff here, but not so much that you're like, oh, it's because he was an orphan, or like, oh, because he was abused at home or whatever. Like there's enough left to the imagination in this by like the fact that he's already grumpy about Christmas and staying at school when like that is an absurd thing for children to want to do, you know, like at that age, like that's the kind of thing that nowadays, if kids like don't want to go home, they're like calling child services because like what's at home that he doesn't want to see? Can he even go home? Or is his like, oh, who cares about Christmas already a facade for the fact that like maybe he has nowhere to go? Like maybe his parents aren't around. Maybe, they're around, but they don't want him there. Like there's something going on that's already triggered that really deeply. And it's already compounding every year where he's choosing to stay at school rather than do literally anything else.
Yes. Yeah. He's a real, like, not a very happy kid to begin with. But he's, you know, he mentions that like Christmas is great because it helps him like catch up on studying and you know, keep himself focused on his future, which is just like to go off and do business. And his headmaster, Sam Eagle, sets him up with an apprenticeship with a Fozziwig, who is like, so we get cut a bit forward in time where Scrooge is now an adult, a very weird looking adult. The guy who plays like, you know, adult Scrooge, like not like younger adult Scrooge, is like, I don't know, he looks so, I don't know. He almost looks
like did such a good job of someone that like looks so serious, that like is handsome enough that like, yeah, like obviously he was gonna like fall in love with someone that was like as pretty as Belle and that kind of thing. And in a way looks like it very realistically could have been a very young Michael Caine. Like in a way, like I feel like there's just enough similarities in their facial structures that like me growing up was like, yeah, that's obviously who grows up to be Scrooge, because like they look like they could actually be related kind of thing.
And like, I'm not sure if it's just bad acting, but he looks very uncomfortable in his own skin. And
that's the point, is like Scrooge is not happy with himself at any point.
Yeah. But like he, like, you know, older Ebenezer Scrooge looks more, Michael Caine looks more comfortable in his own skin. Even the young boy looks more comfortable in his own skin. But like the way he kind of even goes around Fozziwig's Christmas party, because apparently Scrooge's job here, which is clearly not in the Dickens book, is he works at a Fozziwig's rubber chicken company.
Oh my gosh, the way that Michael Caine delivers the line of like, oh, it's the Fozziwig rubber chicken factory party, like matter of fact, totally Shakespearean delivery that you're just like, he deserves an Oscar just for that line alone. Of like how dead serious. He's like, of course a rubber chicken factory is a completely normal place to do an internship. And it's such a clever way of involving Fozzie Bear and Fezziwig, which was the actual Dickens thing. Like, honestly, it's like Dickens wrote this for the Muppets.
And so the Christmas party is like, you know, it's, you know, we can see Dr. Teeth Electric Mayhem. They're like the band playing there. They're playing something very reserved at first, and then Will gets pissed off, so he starts like slamming on the drums, playing something way more upbeat and faster. The party gets kind of a little hopping here and there. Fozzie, because it's classic from the Muppet Show of having Statler and Waldorf kind of heckle Fozzie Bear. He's like one of like, you know, like I'm gonna give a speech. It's like and it's like, you know, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, something simple as that. And like, that was dumb. It was obvious. It was short. We loved it. Oh.
It's so good.
And at this party, he gets introduced to Fozzie's great line. It was like, I love these annual Christmas parties so much, we should do it twice a year. and then Fozzie Bear introduces Scrooge to Belle, who is a, you know, beautiful young Victorian lass. And Michael Caine seems like very upset looking at her. And then like the Christmas past goes like, oh, I think you remember another Christmas with her. And he's like, oh, don't show me that. And then we get to the other traumatic Christmas several Christmases later with her. And so we start off as like some snowfield or whatever like that. They're like talking back and forth. He's like, you know, well, why we're getting married? And he's like, oh, like, my investments are not doing well. We can't afford a house and everything. So we're going to keep weighing it off, putting the wedding off and everything. And she's like, and then she busts into the song. Song's called When Love Is Gone. So before we get into this, Andrea, because we will get into this. So the theatrical cut of this film, back when it came out, omitted the song "When Love Is Gone" because test audiences found that they found out that children found the song to be pretty boring, very sad. People were not responding to the song at all, and I kind of get it. Andrew and I have had this debate our entire lives about the song, because I truly believe that every version of the movie gets released should be the most complete version possible. So I am glad that versions of this movie, pretty much the home video releases on VHS and DVD included the song. But on Blu-ray and digital for the longest time, the song was completely omitted from the film like the original theatrical cut. So in the initial theatrical cut, Scrooge and Belle, they talk about how, Belle pretty much just breaks up with him and I used to love you, whatever, but now I don't anymore. And then it cuts to her walking away and Rizzo the Rat crying, Michael Caine looking sad, and then we get to the next ghost. But they're in the versions that a lot of people have seen, but which is the VHS and DVD version, they have a song "When Love Is Gone," and I think the song is very, very boring.
I think you just have no emotions is what's
the thing
wrong with you.
I love all the songs in this movie so much. The song is just not that, it is not exciting at all, but it's supposed to be a sad, dramatic thing. And it feels like it's 5 minutes long, but apparently it's only 3 minutes and 38 seconds long. But for me, it's enough time to go up and take a shit. It's enough time to make a drink. I don't miss anything at all. I think the song's repetitive. Just her saying, "When love is gone, when love is gone." It's so boring. But
it's necessary, because when it gets cut,
mm-hmm.
First of all, it's obvious that there's just this big jump, because she's like, "Oh, I don't think we can be together anymore," and she kind of starts to walk away, and then all of a sudden Gonzo and Rizzo are just sobbing, and you're like, okay, that wasn't that hard of a breakup, what's the deal? And Michael Caine is crying and his eyes are all red, and you're like, okay, it just jumps so much, and you don't get any sense of their relationship or the turning point that's actually happening, because basically it's you just meet this girl at the Fozziwig Christmas party, it jumps ahead, and she's like, "When are we getting married?" And he's like, not for a while, because money, 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 okay, bye. And then everyone's sad, and she's gone, and you never see her again, because you don't see her again in the rest of the film. She doesn't make a comeback. This is not she doesn't show up in the finale and is like, "Oh, you're good, I'm here again." That's it. And so this person that was so pivotal, the only time that Scrooge had the opportunity to love someone, and he didn't love her the way that anyone should love anyone. Wasn't there for her, wasn't listening to her, put money above her over and over again. And that moment of him letting that go and not even really chasing after her, just letting it go because the money was so important, that highlights so much. But if you cut out the song, you don't really see, because he doesn't sing in it. He's kind of moving around her, and he'll go to touch her shoulder, and she walks away, and there's a lot of unspoken dialogue that
he
really
does have a little singing at the end, though.
Not modern, the
old, yeah, Michael Caine does, yeah.
Michael Caine comes back behind, and that's when you start seeing him tearing up and actually choking up, and you're seeing the emotional reaction from Scrooge, Michael Caine Scrooge, the Scrooge that we're following throughout the film, and he's showing this emotion that his younger self didn't in that moment, and didn't in the whole song that she's singing. There's some brilliant lines in that song, there comes a moment in your life like a window, and you see your future laid before you and how perfect life can be, but adventure calls with unknown voices pulling you away. And be careful or you may regret the choice you make someday. And that stanza of that song is so poignant. And I feel it's one of those things, the older you get and the more you have life choices that come up where you choose a safe path, or you choose a harder path, or you choose you're choosing these items in your life, or these paths in your life. And it's something that, as a kid, you're what choices? My biggest choice is whether I'm going to have Fruit Loops or Corn Pops for breakfast. But it's one of those things that I think once you've lived a little bit and you've experienced some of those big life choices, I don't know, I think everyone goes through various things of choosing things like in my case, I saw me staying at home, where all my friends and my family were and everything. And then this window opens where I could go live in Saskatchewan, but live in the Yukon and like do all this field work and like live like in the mountains, in the woods, off grid, like this adventure calling and like what you have to turn away to do that. And like there's so much more wrapped up in it than just like a love song.
But you didn't sing a really boring song about it. You just went and did it.
Not boring.
It's so boring. It's so dull.
It's not dull because you get all of the emotions, and she's really like, who wants love to be gone? Like, I've never heard another song that's like just when it's gone. Like it's not even about like you did this to me or I did this to you or you weren't there for me or like the reasons for pulling apart. It's just like it's just gone. Like this, it's just not there anymore. And there's something really tragic in that. That's less like, even though we know that it's kind of his fault, like the fact that she's not even putting the blame really on him. She, like when he says, I love you, Belle, she says, you did once. And that's it. She's not blaming him. She's not going to drag it out. She's not going to try to get him back. It's just like, it's gone. We're done. Like there's nothing left to do here and like leave. And
but you even get that in the dialogue. That's the thing is that like, I think you can get that in the dialogue. The song adds to it. And I'm glad this version exists with the song in it. But like what I like about what's funny is that there's version like my Blu-ray does not have the song in it at all. And I think it's so funny that like it's so rare for me to have a version of a movie that removes the one scene, the exact one part of it I do not like. It's so convenient for me, but it pisses everyone else off.
The other argument, so first of all, I would argue that like storyline wise and like in terms of flow of the emotions, it really jumps without it. All of a sudden they're really sobbing and you're like, what? Like that wasn't even
Muppets
that hard.
love to exaggerate their feelings. They're Muppets.
But it's in a weird way that's not just like, oh, that was so sad, like because they're starting to cry like throughout the song. Anyway, so there's a storyline thing that already just jogs weirdly. It really cuts Belle as being a pivotal character completely out of it, really. Because you don't know her, you don't get any sense of what she's like or her personality or anything like that because it just collapsed her down to being on screen for like 2 minutes maybe, if that, when the song's cut out of it. But then my other argument is coming back to the score, which is an incredible score. And when you listen to it, there's the motifs that are embedded in that song that come back later. And especially in the finale, when they're singing, like when the love we found, and it's like Scrooge's sort of like redemption thing, like after he sings Thankful Heart, it goes into the love we found. And like, it's sung in a way and it's scored in a way that's like, this is the conclusion. This is drawing from earlier. Whereas when you cut that song out, you're like, what? Why are we singing the love we found? Like, it just is weird because I didn't realize that love was gone in the first place. Like, why is Scrooge? Because without the Belle song, there's really nothing for him to anchor, like, the feelings of love in. There's a lot of, like, maybe don't be a jerk so much. Maybe, like, spend a little money and, like, bring joy to people and be nicer. But love is not really a part of it because it's not really a love story. But when you cut out the Belle song, then you really don't get that at all. So then this finale that really ties everything together, it wraps things up. It also doesn't make sense because
it could just be a new song. But they also like have the whole.
You wouldn't like look at any other score, look at any other musical, like literally any other musical. They're usually pulling elements of that song like throughout and like tying things up later with those elements. You don't introduce something completely brand new.
Cats does it. Cats does it.
No, Cats is terrible. I will never. We're not talking about Cats.
Well, like there's like like first your memory, I'll jog a cat is not a dog. That's a brand new song at the end of that musical.
It's not even a song. It's just stupid. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
But you can also argue that with the love we found because the whole song with Ghost Christmas Present is like whenever it feels like love, it feels like Christmas. So bam, love
but
Christmas.
It's not musically the same. Like, did you not learn anything in music class? Like,
no.
Yeah, obviously not. Like it flows better, and like it needs that slower moment because you kind of come out of the Ghost of Christmas Past is still chaotic. Like it's like quite chaotic. There's a lot of jokes in there, a lot of the visual gags with Rizzo and with Gonzo is Charles Dickens, like the cat and the chicken and like all that kind of stuff. And then the shelf scene, because they're sitting up on a shelf that's kind of broken along with busts of like Shakespeare and who else is up there? I forget. But that's kind of like a gag. And then it would go basically heartbeat and then right into the Ghost of Christmas Present, which is also really upbeat. And what we've already set up in the first part of the film is like a bit of an emotional roller coaster that otherwise you just end up really, really high and then you kind of plunge into the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. And this adds in that kind of like ebb and flow of the emotions more. Because again, just the standalone scene with them cutting the song is so short and so brief that you're like, that felt important, but I didn't really make an impression because it wasn't on long enough.
The one thing I'll give that song, which I still think is incredibly boring, is that when Michael Caine does do some singing there, he has some great acting with it too. And it's like, okay, so it does flow well there. And academically, I know that the song fits in the movie. I just love that. I find the song so dull that like there's versions of it that just completely cut it. It's like a tailor-made version of Muppet Christmas Carol, like the Brian cut for me is a theatrical cut. This removes the song, like, yada yada's over the whole trauma relationship, which I think is nice for me. I'm glad that it's so. If you're watching this on Disney Plus, there is it's now on there. For a while, Disney claimed that they did not have the ability to turn to HD because they didn't have the masters for the movie or something, but it is in HD now. But on Disney Plus, you have to go under extras to find it. And I think there's talks about making it a 4K movie, and they're going to release it fully with that song in there. So I lost overall because this movie is going to come back with the song fully in place. It's going to be the complete movie as originally intended, which is good. But I miss my bathroom break. I miss my drink. If you
need a bathroom break in 90 minutes, let me just point out right now that I am 5 months pregnant and I watched this movie this morning and I did not need a bathroom break in the 90 minutes with the song watching this movie. If I can survive a bathroom break, you should too.
I watched Avatar Fire and Ash last night. That movie was like 4 hours long. No bathroom break.
It's ridiculous. No, it's good. I appreciate it. And the Martina McBride version of the song, too, that plays over the end credits, I think is gorgeous. And I think it's just one of those, like, Christmas is not always a happy time. And that's sort of the point, is, like, it's sad. And I think seeing Scrooge as someone that didn't really give it his all is like, oh, is he even capable of love? Like, he's just so cold in a way, and like, why? And then the fact that the older Michael Caine comes in behind and is crying and is choked up, it's like, oh, you can start to see the cracks in that start to form, because the younger Scrooge is just kind of like, okay, bye. Like, he doesn't really seem that bent out of shape. Like, he kind of follows her a little bit and he's like, okay.
He looks like a serial killer following her.
Yes. I mean, I think that point is like, because he was so cold and he was so incapable of expressing emotions because he was so guarded and protective of like whatever he was guarding, like his internal ability to care about literally anything other than money. But then the juxtaposition of the older Scrooge coming in behind and singing and his voice starting to crack a little bit and him starting to tear up and him choking up is like that first moment where you're like, oh, he's actually affected by this quite deeply. This is something he's repressed for many, many years. Because now that he's back there with her, seeing her again in that moment, you're seeing the regret on his face. You're seeing him realize that he let something absolutely priceless walk away. And like, that's when you start to see Scrooge actually begin to unravel in a way.
It's also the first time you see Michael Caine sing in the movie. Is that
yes?
And
which is awesome. I love when he sings in this movie.
Oh yeah, because he's not a professional singer, so like, but he does it with enough. He has enough acting chops to him, so he makes it work even without being a total professional. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we've had this debate with the song for decades and decades. So like, I feel like it's going to keep going too. But like, academically, you are right. But
yes. Academically, I'm right, and I feel like if you've ever experienced any feelings in your life, this is
fuck feelings. But you know, it's a great feeling when it feels like Christmas. So we go to the Ghost of Christmas Past is thankfully gone out of this movie, that horrible little monster. So now we go to the Ghost of Christmas Present, who's like almost like a Ginger Hagrid type thing, a very jolly.
It is a very haggard. I'm convinced that they like built Haggard off of the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Yeah, like very lovable, jolly giant.
Bulbous nose with like really round cheeks and just like really warm, and like holly decorating his like hair and beard, like really beautiful robes, and just so giggly in a good way.
And like this ghost shows up in like the light of Scrooge's house by a fire there, and the ghost is like oh, like I'm happy because it's Christmas morning, ho ho ho. And he's like, do you ever feel any joy at Christmas? Scrooge is like, no. And Michael Caine has this great quiver to his face when he's like, I don't really feel joy. The Ghost of Christmas Present makes this one crack about all the previous brothers he's had over the years, which basically like however many years since the birth of Christ is how many brothers he's had. And Scrooge makes his first joke of the movie, which is like, oh, imagine the grocery bill. Yeah. And I love that Scrooge's first joke is a money-related joke because that's what Scrooge knows best, and it's about saving money and being cheap and miserly.
Yeah.
And like the fact that he's like able to get this guy to like this ghost to kind of crack and laugh, like kind of like Scrooge is kind of like very happy with himself for making that joke.
Yeah. Well, I think it, like, again, not to harp on it too much, but it follows on the tail of like him starting to crack a little bit in the scene before, and he's now moved into this new era basically with the Ghost of Christmas Present, and like the vibes that this ghost gives off is just like pure joy, right? Like it's so infectious that even someone like Scrooge can't help but join in that feeling, which I think is, you know, a really nice metaphor in a way for like the idea of Christmas. Like, can you really resist the joy of it if it's something that you celebrate? Like, it's kind of infectious.
This song is the best song in the movie.
Absolutely. It's been on my playlists for years. I don't know how I got a hold of it, probably through like LimeWire or something back in the day, because I've had it on CDs. Like I've got this Christmas mix CD I made like in 2001 kind of thing, and I got a hold of it then, and I it's the first Christmas song I let myself listen to every year. My playlist on Spotify is called It Feels Like Christmas. Like it is, to me, like as much as I won't watch the movie usually until Christmas Eve itself, the soundtrack is like December 1st. I'm listening to this song. Like it's so good. And
like it's very joyous too. Like Scrooge is kind of like doing a little awkward dancing here. There's like lifting his arms, like a very like white boy at a club dancing. Like it's you know, very charming, and like a lot of there's points where like there's a police officer Muppet and a prisoner Muppet who exchange gifts and everything. The mice who do not get their cheeses. They're all happy and joyous. Like everyone's just happy. It's a very upbeat, lovely song. And it gets kind of Scrooge in the mood too, like, oh, like this is awesome. Like Christmas is actually kind of cool. Like, can you show me some other cool things happening at Christmas as well? And so he gets shown brought to a house. He's not like, where the fuck is this? And he's like, oh, it's like this is Bob Cratchit. So I was like, oh, it's such a meager place for a little family. We had Bob Cratchit and his son Tiny Tim. Like they are coming home, and you know, there was like this little like Christmas scat song going on. It was like as like going along, and Tiny Tim's on his shoulder. Tiny Tim is like, he has like a crutch and everything. He's, you know, has some sort of issue. And meanwhile at home, so Gonzo and Rizzo as the narrators, they're at the top of the roof. Like Gonzo's like sweeping the chimney trying to get down, and they smell from up above that there's a goose down below. And inside it's Miss Piggy as Emily Cratchit, and three little there's like a frog son and two pig daughters. So you're a geneticist, so how the fuck does that happen?
This is one of my favorite things. I mean, I feel like it's just like it's a sex-linked autosomal or a sex-linked chromosomal dominant trait. Because like all the boys are frogs and all the girls are pigs. So I feel like, you know, that's got to be something that's like a sex-linked trait. So either on the Y or the X chromosome.
Okay.
Beyond that, I don't want to know about the mechanics, but the frog and the pig romance has been going on for decades, right? And I do want to point out too that, because we talked about the costumes so much before, I love that Miss Piggy still maintains her pearls and her purple gloves, even though she is playing Emily Cratchit. But it's also like Christmas too, and that's when you bring out your finest. Like maybe these were family heirlooms or something. It's like even though they don't match the outfit, even though, you know, it's just totally bizarre. It's like, oh, well, it's Christmas, so like wear your finest kind of thing. I think it's really fantastic. And the goose is interesting because at the time, goose was like much more of a traditional meal at Christmas. But it was actually Charles Dickens in A Christmas Carol with this novel that popularized the idea of turkey for a Christmas dinner, which the turkey obviously makes a showing later, but the fact that they are having Christmas goose is much more in line with like what a traditional meal in England would have been at this time.
The goose lobby must have hated this movie, hated this story. Lost so much goose sales.
So many goose sales. Goose is so much more expensive than turkey per pound, though.
Well, thanks to this story. It's all Dickens' fault.
It's just because geese, feeding geese takes, I don't know how many more times the food to put on a pound of like meat or whatever onto a goose than turkeys. Turkeys are, and it's again the same thing again. Turkeys compared to broiler chickens. Like broiler chickens, like you can almost gain a pound for every pound you feed the chickens, right? Like it's that might not be statistically correct, but like then turkeys are like however much more times that food, and then geese are like even more than that. So yeah, in terms of like why chicken is like a daily thing and goose is like maybe once every few years we can afford a goose.
I can go down to Springbank Park right now and strangle like 3 gooses and eat them.
That's
like
very illegal.
Yeah, but it's because again the lobby, the turkey lobby is ruining it for all of us. Like maybe there's a world where geese would be the new turkey. Like you would have like, you know, like a club sandwich would have goose meat instead of turkey meat.
I actually still have goose meat in the freezer from the last time I went goose hunting.
Exactly. You hunt geese all the time, so you get to eat geese
legally with a permit.
It's only illegal if they catch you.
I do have to say farmed geese though have so much more fat on them. Because I cooked Christmas goose at home for Christmas a number of years, right? And goose, when you are cooking a goose in the oven, you have to keep adding water to the pan to prevent grease fires, which is not a problem with turkeys. Yeah, very different birds. But yeah, going back into the Cratchit house, seeing that goose, then Rizzo getting his nose up in that goose's business and falling and then landing on the hot goose that's roasting over an open fire.
Because little Peter, the frog's son, is like spinning it. It's like Miss Piggy, who's like incredible, is like Peter keeps spinning that turkey. It smells so good, Mother. It does, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? She's so self-centered. I love it.
One of the funny scenes in the movie is when Miss Piggy is just eating all the chestnuts, and when the pig daughter shows up and it's like, Mother, you're not supposed to eat those chestnuts till Father and Tiny Tim get home. I wasn't eating them. I was just testing it. Belinda, like, I'm Bettina. And it was like Miss Piggy's confused with her own 2 daughters, like Belinda, Bettina.
Whatever.
Which, like, I don't know, like, if I were to have, like, twins, I would, like, you know, tattoo one on the forehead just so I always know which one's which.
Some people do tattoo their twins.
Like, I've heard, like, you know, I heard people, like, put marks on their feet or something like that, but I would do something like the face. Like, I don't want them to trick me. Like, kids of mine would do so much pranks and stuff because just genetics, but, like, yeah, it's just, like, and also, like, why would you name such similar names too? It feels like you're just dooming them to, like, confusion.
No, that's very common with twins. I have a twin story I will take offline just because it's, like, names that I don't want to, like, broadcast. But, like, yeah, I know of a pair of twins that have, like, it's like a guy and a girl, like fraternal twins, and their names are basically, like, just the gender equivalent to each other. Brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
But actually, Celine Dion has siblings that are twins, and same thing, I think, where it's like, I can't remember the names, but it would be like Paul and Paulette or something like that. God. Like, they're the twins' names. Yeah, so it happens.
I guess if you don't want to call it like 2 unique names, it just might be easier for the parent just to
you're expecting one.
Yeah, it's like, oh, fuck, I don't know, like
really hard to find baby names. Okay, give them some slack.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, it's supposed to be Jim 1, I'll name the other one Jim 2. Make it easy. But, yeah, so Tiny Tim and Bob Cratchit arrive home, and the kids, like, bum rush Kermit, like, slam against the wall, which is awesome. And, you know, Emily asks Bob Cratchit, like, hey, like, how was Tiny Tim at church? And, like, you know, as good as gold and better. Like,
gold.
And, like, Tiny Tim is, like, trying to guilt trip everyone at church, be like, you know, it's, like, Christmas is great because it reminds people that, like, lame men can walk and blind men can see, because, like, Tiny Tim is, like, you know, has issues walking. And we get this really lovely song, Bless Us All, sung by, you know, Robin, Tiny Tim there. And it's about how, like, you know, we come together for Christmas and, you know, it's a happy event. And the song is great because at the end of the song, like Tiny Tim, like Robin gives these like, you know, little sad coughs and everything. And like you feel bad for Tiny Tim, of course. And even before the song begins, like Tiny Tim smells and goes like, "Heh, the goose, the goose." It's like, oh, Tiny Tim, you're getting too excited for the goose and everything. And Scrooge is watching all of this and kind of was like, oh, I give him such a meager salary each year, and like you're eating such a meager feast. And the Ghost of Christmas Present's like, it's meager, but like it's important to them.
Yeah, I think it's meager, but very much appreciated. Is the other thing is like, it doesn't have to be all the bells and whistles and stuff for like it to mean so much. And yeah, you get the obvious like hints there that there's something like, you know, Tiny Tim's health isn't doing great. And you're starting to see, again, the unraveling of the mean Scrooge, where he's like starting to feel a little bit of empathy of like, oh, like, this is why I should pay my employees a living wage.
Yeah.
Like,
and the Ghost of Christmas Present says, like, you know, like Scrooge's like, "I'll spare it. Will this child live?" Like, Christmas was like, this, like, the present's my territory. I see like an empty chair, an empty crutch, and lonely crutch in the corner in the future. So Scrooge's like, "Oh, fuck, I'm gonna kill this little frog baby." Like, I don't know. At the same time, like, if you're a frog and a pig and trying to reproduce, like, 3 out of 4 is not bad. Like, that's good odds.
especially for back in the day, where
Especially back in the yeah.
it was quite high.
Yeah, the frog and pig reproduction scientists hadn't figured out a lot of like, you know, in vitro treatments and stuff to prevent Tiny Tim disorder.
Yeah, it's really sad.
But the Ghost of Christmas Present's kind of fading away because he is the president, of course. He has a gray beard and such, and he disappears and makes Scrooge a little bit upset. And Gonzo and Rizzo get kind of spooked because the next ghost is coming along, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, and it's kind of like a Grim Reaper looking thing.
Oh yeah, you can't see anything under that hood. Like, it's faceless. It's just a dark black hole. And the proportions, like, I don't know how they did the arms, but the arms, like, typically human arm span is the equivalent of the height. But like the proportions, like, its arms are like twice as tall or twice as long as it is tall. And it's already a tall character, which is so different because, like, normally in the rest of the film, like, Scrooge is standing a couple feet above most of the Muppets characters, save for like some of the big ones like the Ghost of Christmas Present, and then this ghost comes along and it's even taller again, and so very ominous, like this kind of weird shroud material of robes. It has these long creepy bluish fingers that kind of plays into like it's cold, and even though Christmas is of the future, like, I don't know, I'm excited for future Christmas. Like, isn't Christmas going to be good? And the fact that he's the opposite of hope, the opposite of joy, the opposite, like, his face is literally a black hole, or their face, I should say. And it's so ominous. And that's the point where Rizzo and Gonzo, as Charles Dickens, are like, this is too spooky. We'll meet you at the finale. Goodbye. Which is brilliant because we're descending again, because we just came out of that like Ghost of Christmas Present, that It Feels Like Christmas song, Bless Us All, which was very heartwarming but still warm. And now's the point. This is the climax where Scrooge really has to change. Like, he needs to be shocked out of his skin and have that full gravity of what the change is going to be, to have him have that emotional fully realization. Because like I've said, the cracks are starting to show. He's starting to piece together empathy. He's starting to piece together heartbreak. He's starting to piece together loneliness. Like, all these things are starting to show. And now what is going to come is like him facing his own mortality that he has not really thought of before. And the fact that they completely remove Gonzo and Rizzo from like being involved at all is like, oh, that foreshadows that this is not going to be fun. This is not a fun part at all. Like, okay, if the kids are like a little bit bored in Love Is Gone song, like, how are they not absolutely terrified of this part?
And like, what's great about this part too is that, like, it's not sanitized for the kids too. Like, you can see a way you can kind of like make it more simple for kids, but like, no, it's pretty dark. Like, first off, like, the first thing Scrooge, like, he's walking around town. It's rainy this Christmas too. It's not very snowy. So like, there's a bunch of like the pigmen, like the business pigs, like they are umbrellas, and talking about some funeral, like someone just died, and like who would ever want to go to that funeral? Like, I'd go if lunch were provided. And we don't really know who is dead and who is this person. Like, everyone's kind of like happy died. And Then we Scrooge kind of wanders along with the ghost of Christmas. The ghost of Christmas yet to come kind of just points places for Scrooge to go, like a silent ghost. Like, so Scrooge is always asking questions, and it gets him to darker and darker places. And we get to this one fence who's like played by some spider Muppet who's like buying stolen goods. So whoever has died, like, these people like kind of ransacked his home, stole his like curtains, stole like his like even his bed, his cufflinks, his bed sheets. Like, oh, they're still warm. I don't pay for the warmth. You should. It's the only warmth you ever had. Yeah. And they'll have a great laugh. What blew my mind this time around, I never really noticed before, is that the spider who's buying all the stolen goods from the dead, he's at the finale at the Cratchits at the end.
Oh yeah, everyone's there.
Yeah, yeah. So he's probably saying like the love we found. It's just like, well, no, you literally robbed from the dead.
He doesn't rob, he's the fence. So people bring him goods.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to know where they came from or how they got to his hand or feet. There's like 8 of them because he's a spider. And then he just moves them on. He's the middleman, right? Yeah. That's what a fence is. Yeah. So.
And so the next thing he goes to is that he wants to see some joy, so take him to the Cratchit. So he goes to the Cratchit home, and it's, Peter's very miserable. I think he's like, turning something very slowly. And Emily's all sad, is like crying, is like, the cooking she claims. She's trying to put a strong face for her 2 pig daughters. And, like, when's Daddy gonna be home? He's like, oh, your father's been walking home very slow the past couple of nights. And Kermit the Frog arrives, no Tiny Tim at all, because Tiny Tim has passed away. Turns out Kermit's been looking for a gravesite for Tiny Tim, and he finds a nice place, a nice grave spot overlooking the river where Tiny Tim's gonna look at the ducks.
Tiny Tim always loved watching the ducks on the river.
And it's like they're all very sad, and they're sitting down, and Kermit has this incredible line, which is just like, life is a series of comings and goings, and that's just the way of it.
Yeah.
Which is very profound. It's like the best way you can kind of treat death and the randomness of life is like, just like, that's just the way it is, but we will always remember Tiny Tim. Is
that a Dickens line? I actually don't know whether that was Muppets or Dickens.
I meant to reread the novella, but I didn't get around to it. But like, I assume Dickens, but it'd be cool if it was like, if I die, like, have that be in my eulogy. But
I want mine too.
but quote it from Kermit the Frog. I posted on the I was watching the blooper reel, which is on the Blu-ray. I posted on my stories for the MoviePod Instagram account. One of the blooper scenes here is that they're sitting at the table all sad and everything. Is like it's so sad Tiny Tim can't be with us this Christmas feast. And Belinda says like can I have his dinner? It's such a funny line. It's such a sad scene.
I think that's like it. That kind of stuff, the bloopers of this are hilarious, because even though the Muppets themselves are puppets, like there's still actors involved, right? And like one of the scenes when they're in the town square with the ghost of Christmas Present, and he's like look around, and he actually just smacks Michael Caine in the face by accident. You could just see him be like, oh, I'm so sorry, and Michael Caine's just like, ow, my nose.
And like the way the
Muppets
acting too, they're so in spirit with the characters that they're not like, it's not like you see like the human being behind the Muppet, like, oh my god, how did I do that? Like, they're staying in characters, the Muppets, like consoling him, like, oh, I'm sorry I did that. Like, it's a puppet.
When they're swinging the hook to like hook onto the ghost of Christmas Past to like hook the ride, and so Gonzo's swinging the hook, and it comes up and it actually catches him right in the head. And then he's just like, oh, and then Rizzo's like, Gonzo, are you okay? Oh, I mean, Mr. Dickens, help, medic. Instead of like, you never see the Muppets go limp because they get out of character. Like the Muppeteers are so professional that like they are those characters and they maintain those characters. So the bloopers still are these actors just messed up. The actors being the Muppets themselves. And so, taking advantage, or like those like little sly remarks that you throw in just to like make everyone laugh on set.
Yeah, it's if you've not seen Muppet bloopers before, absolutely look them up online. They're so much fun.
They're so good.
And so the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come directs Scrooge to a cemetery. And Scrooge just kind of clicked in at this point. He doesn't want to admit to himself that he's the one whose death everyone's happy about.
The denial is so thick.
Yeah. And like there's a point where like the ghost just points at a gravestone that's covered in snow. And Ebenezer Scrooge kind of like looks at, points like, oh, I'm going to go to this grave. And the ghost has come, is like, no, that one over there. And like Michael Caine looks over it, rubs off the name on the tomb, and it's Ebenezer Scrooge who had died. And he's so upset. He's just crying, and it's like, you know, like, oh my God, like, you know, everyone's happy that I died. Like, you know, I promise to change my ways. I will like live my life with the spirit of Christmas. I'll honor it all the time. And he like falls into the Muppet Ghost Christmas Future, and it's like, you know, like, please spirit, I can change. And the way the scene transitions incredible when Michael Caine falls into the Christmas Ghost of Christmas Future, and then like wakes, and he falls into his bed sheets in modern when he wakes up. It's such a cool transition.
Yeah, it's so powerful because he like literally like grabs the robes and like falls down, and then that's the bed curtains or whatever down, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and he's like alive.
The music's perky.
Yeah, and it's like, again, you kind of like have that really deep emotional, he's reached that climax, he's reached that realization, like he has to change, he's committing to change, and that he's got this new chance. Like he just saw his own grave in front of his own eyes after seeing all these people basically celebrate him dying. And he now has this whole new day. Christmas is on now. This is the chance. And he is like, jumps out of bed, and you see the whole demeanor change. And this is where Michael Caine's acting is just like so good, because he literally is just bouncing. You see like all this youth for someone that, like, Michael Caine wasn't young filming this by any means. But he's got this like lightness to him. He says like, I'm, you know, as
light as a feather, happy as a schoolboy.
Yeah.
And so like Gonzo and Rizzo are back too, and like they're hanging out by the windowsill, and like, hey guys, we're back. And then like Rizzo's like, hey, you think we're safe up here? And Gonzo's like, oh, there's nothing to worry about. Scrooge is a changed man now. And Scrooge just bursts open the window, and they both fall off of it. And Scrooge like sees that Bean Bunny down below. It's like, you there, so you're like, oh, what, me, sir? Yeah, you're loud. Like, you know, what day is it today? Why today? Why today's Christmas Day, of course. Like, well, I haven't missed it. The spirits are right. They're always right. Yes, they are.
Of course they are.
And like he asks, like, hey, like, is that turkey in the window at that one store is still available? And he's like, oh, the one that's like twice as big as me. Yes, if you buy it right now, I'll give you a shilling. No, I'll give you 5 shillings. And like whips down like a thing of change to Bean Bunny. Bean Bunny's like, holy shit, fuck yeah, like money. And Scrooge gets himself like all geared up, like he's actually dressed himself so pretty well this time to get out.
Yeah, he's got like his nice silk top hat on. He's got a nice, respectable black coat.
And like he's gets outside and it's like wishing Merry Christmas to everyone he sees. And he runs into Benson, Honeyduke, and Beaker, who like Beaker's initially terrified to see Scrooge again, and like hides down below. And Scrooge is just like says this is one first great action of his entire life, where he's like all right, so he has this for a donation, whispers something to the Benson Honeyduke, and he's like, oh my god, that much? And Scrooge's like, no, I pay less, and many back payments are in store for that too. And there's like, we don't know how to thank you, Scrooge. It's such an awesome donation. And Beaker takes a scarf off and gives it to Scrooge as a gift.
It's such a wholesome, touching moment.
Yeah, and like the way that Michael Caine reacts to this was like, oh my god, just like he did something nice and got something nice in return, and he's like, this feels
which he
great.
wasn't expecting, which is the key, right? Like he did the donation, not expecting anything in return, and yet it comes back to him like immediately.
And like he's like, oh, Merry Christmas, and Merry Christmas to us all. And then like Bean Bunny comes back with the turkey, and then he starts going around town doing kinds of festive things. Okay, but also one problem I have with the scene though is that so Scrooge said that the bookkeepers are not allowed to come into work because all businesses are closed. We don't want to do business with Christmas Day. Yet Scrooge is able to go all these businesses and buy gifts on Christmas Day, including this turkey. Therefore, the bookkeeper should have come into work still because they're still on Christmas Day because there was business to be done.
But I would argue that the business that they do with like mortgage lending and stuff probably was not relying on the turkey shop, for example.
Yeah, I guess like 7-Elevens are open on Christmas Day, like, you know, if people want to buy gas.
Yeah, whereas like the people that I know that actually do mortgage brokerage and stuff are off on Christmas.
They've been off all December. Like And so we get to this lovely song, which is a Thankful Heart, and Scrooge is going around town, like, giving gifts to people, and including going to his nephew Fred and Clara's place. Oh, we missed on with this part during the Ghost Christmas present stuff, where at Fred and Clara's place, they're playing this one game about, like, you know, asking, like, hey, like we're
20 questions.
Like 20 questions, and it's 20 questions. Like it's like an animal, fruit, or mineral. So an animal, it's found in a farm or city, always in a city, and it's like a wretched piece of vermin. No one likes, a huge piece of shit. Everyone fucking hates it. And Claire is just like, oh, it's Ebenezer Scrooge, and Fred's like, yes, and everyone has a good laugh. So Fred's a piece of two-faced son of a bitch too.
Yeah, you kind of realize that, like, oh, Fred's a little bit of an ass, and Claire's maybe a little bit of a bitch.
Yeah,
like,
but Scrooge still comes over to like their place, and like he gives them a nice gift and everything. And like it'd be very funny if Scrooge interrupted them playing that game and was like, hey motherfuckers, I have gifts for you all.
Well, and I feel like it's totally written on their faces, right? Because they react like, what the heck just happened? Like,
they're surprised, and like Claire is like, shakes little gifts a little bit, and it's like, oh my god, maybe he's actually a good person. And like Scrooge also gives gifts to his old headmaster and Mr. Fozziwig. Fozziwig has the giant ear horn to like shake the gift, see what's inside of it. And Scrooge also goes to his own work and like has like the baskets of coal to give to his bookkeepers, keep them warm. So he's doing it like.
Which also makes Scrooge warm. You have to remember that, like, not only is he expecting his workers to be miserable, I think a really interesting point in Scrooge's character is that he's not asking them to do anything that he's not doing himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was going to come into work. He was going to work in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like he's taking the day off for Christmas and staying nice and toasty warm. Like, he's also down and like, no, we're working. No, we're not putting more coal on the fire. Like, he's also chilled himself, which I think is interesting and a little bit different than what we kind of typically see as like bosses or like honestly today's billionaires, where it's like different rules for thee than for me. Like, you see Scrooge, he's so miserly that he won't even like keep himself warm because he really truly is clinging on to that. So then like at the end when he's coming by and like giving the coal to his workers, it's not just a gift to him, like, or to them, but like, this is going to make his life a little bit better too.
Yeah. Like even his own home, like he has like no like artwork or anything up. He's just a miserable. There's nothing going on. Like even when he sits down with like cheese and bread before the ghosts visit him, it's just like the saddest little meager meal possible. Like even the Cratchit's meager feast is more impressive than Scrooge's like dinner time.
Scrooge girl dinner, but like in a.
I think the opposite of girl dinner is a Scrooge dinner.
Yeah, it was just like, you're gonna sit on the couch or on a chair and eat. You're gonna just like eat over a plate. You're not gonna heat anything. You're not cooking. You're just like, oh, I found this in the fridge. This'll do.
Yeah. And so as the song is like wrapping up and he's going around town, he gets to the Cratchit home, and like he's been followed by all these other Muppets and humans sort of like getting into Christmas festivities and carrying gifts for him. And gets to the Cratchit home, knocks on the door, yells like, Bob Cratchit! He has to scare Bean Bunny away, who has the giant turkey with him, because like Bean Bunny is not aware he's supposed to be hiding. And I love how Scrooge is just like, I used to be pure evil last year, but now I'm good. The first thing he's going to fuck with Bob Cratchit a little bit.
He really goes with the like just messing with them. Really.
And so Kermit Frog comes to the door. He's like, hey, yes, Mr. Scrooge. And it's like, why aren't you at work today? He's like, oh, it's Christmas Day. You gave me the day off. He's like, I gave you the day off. He's like, would I do such a thing? He's like, no, you wouldn't, but you did, sir. And then Miss Piggy comes along and so starts yelling at Scrooge about like how how dare you do all this stuff. And what's the line where it's like,
and I'm about to raise your salary. Yeah. Oh, and I'm about to raise you right off the pavement.
And like she slams Kermit the Frog against the wall to yell at Scrooge a little bit. And like and then he's like, I'm about to raise your salary and pay off your mortgage. And they're like, oh my god, I feel like so happy about that. And then like Scrooge says like, hey, can my friends come in for a little Christmas feast? All the Muppets and all the people come inside their little house there and bring the biggest meal possible and all these gifts for them and everything. And it's all happy, and the Cratchit family is just so like, oh, how could this happen? This is incredible. There was a great little meal. Tiny Tim like says to everyone, like as they're about to have the meal, like, God bless us everyone, which is a classic line. Gonzo, Charles Dickens says like, Tiny Tim does not die, and Scrooge became as good of a mentor and a friend and another father figure to Tiny Tim. So Scrooge, like, he's keeping this beyond Christmas too. He's kind of learned his lesson because he's keeping up with the Cratchits being a kind person. And we get the song.
I have to highlight here that that line that Gonzo gives, Charles Dickens, is straight from Dickens, straight from the novella, where he says like, because even when you read it, like it's the word not and like not die is capitalized in like small caps in the print version. So when Gonzo delivers that line and Tiny Tim, who did not die, is like, he's using the same emphasis that Dickens even put in. So like, not just, again, I think highlighting the like literary master that Dickens was, that like knew how to use those devices like all caps to emphasize things in ways that were not typically, like you would typically just use italics or something. And he kind of went a little bit different with the all caps and how that gets translated directly into like how Gonzo performs as Charles Dickens when he's reciting this line. And then the next line about the good as man and good as father and all that kind of stuff is again, right from Dickens. And another really good thing, because you could, without the narrator in this, there's a lot of like inference. Like you could probably figure out like Scrooge is a changed man. Tiny Tim's probably going to like survive and whatnot, or like maybe it's good. But the fact that they've got the narrator in place to like actually bring home these points and narrate it and tell you what's going to happen is like such a great way of wrapping it up.
And so we get the song When Love Is Found, which is the reprise from the song we talked about in depth earlier.
That's the word I was looking for, the reprise. Like that makes sense, because like otherwise what are you reprising if it doesn't exist earlier in the film?
Yeah. Merry Christmas, yada yada. And so they sing the song, everyone's happy, the camera goes outside like the windows, and like there's lobsters singing too outside the windows, like everyone's happy across town. And you know, we zoom out and we get over the credits, we get it feels like Christmas again. But as a final line, Gonzo says like, wow, that was a great story, Mr. Dickens. Like, thanks. If you like that, you should read the book. Yeah, which is how all adaptations should end, like that. I was just like, hey, yeah, you should read the book, like if you like this.
Yeah, and like honestly, you should read the book, because I think I mean I didn't read it till I was like well into my, was it late 20s, early 30s that I finally read it after years of watching Muppet Christmas Carol. And it was so interesting because I like, it's one thing when you read a book, you've seen the movie, you know the story or whatever, but like I knew the words, like, because there's just so much Dickens in the script that gets woven through, that when you get to the actual novel, it's like, okay, well, I've read this already. Yeah, and it's worth reading because there's a little bit of difference. There's some things that are like not put in the movie, things that are just like a little bit different. You get a little bit more backstory on Scrooge's sister. I think her name was Fan, who was Fred's mother. And like, so that's completely left out of this adaptation, is like getting to know a little bit of that other reason why Scrooge is like cranky, is because like he quite loved his sister, and she's obviously no longer with us, because they highlight at the very beginning of the film that Fred is his only living relative. So like, you know, I mean, Scrooge is old enough that like it's not unimaginable that his parents have both passed by that point anyways, but like a nephew, so like where's your sibling? Not around. Like obviously he doesn't have like a wife or children of his own. But like no other siblings. Like what, it would have been almost weird to not have any siblings that time, because everyone had fairly big families. And so they drop that little nugget in quite early in the beginning, and that's something in the book that you get to like a little bit more of. And so it's still worth reading, but when you read it, you then realize like the Muppets pretty much nailed it. And in so many ways, and like another way that we haven't really touched on, because I've, you know, talked about the costumes are really on point. The use of storytelling devices like was so on point. The use of the actual Dickens lines in the script was so good. But something else too is just the way that Dickens wrote, and like the way that he told stories were very character centric and very caricature. Like a lot of people would say that Dickens characters were like these kind of larger than life characters anyways. Like he's really well known, not necessarily for like he's famous for a lot of things, but like his prose and the storylines and that sort of thing. But the characters, like the way that he describes people in his stories, are often so bigger than life, kind of caricature-y. Actually, some of the etchings that are in the novella are from a caricaturist, not just like an artist, but a caricaturist, because like kind of takes these characters that Dickens writes that are like really kind of big over the top characters, which arguably could not actually be adapted for on the screen by anyone other than the Muppets. Because what are the Muppets but kind of these caricatures in a way of like people, but bigger and more colorful and more vibrant. And that really just reflects what Dickens wrote as characters in the first place. And so I think that's why so many of the other adaptations come across as really stuffy. They fall flat. Like they're so much more serious than Dickens would have even wanted in a way. Like, because he wasn't writing these super serious stage plays. Like, he was writing novels about these like really outsized characters, and having them played by Muppets actually lends that without having human actors seem kind of over the top and silly and ridiculous. It just translates that all so well.
Yeah. And like people at the time, like I was looking at the reviews for back when it came out, which are like pretty solid reviews. Like nothing, people weren't saying this is the best movie ever made. But like people were saying like there are other better Dickens adaptations of this out there. Like there are better versions of Christmas Carol you can watch that are more, serious, whatever. And people weren't sold on the Muppet balance of it all. But like there was a Toronto Star reviewer, Norman Wilner, acknowledged that, like, hey, I think by using the original text, you kind of get the spirit of Dickens within the movie, and I think that's what really works so well. And like people who look back on this movie as being the most accurate adaptation of the book is that because it uses the Dickensian dialogue directly, it really captures the spirit of the book without the dialogue having to use original dialogue to really sell a scene. It uses the dialogue of Dickens to help paint the scene, but the Muppets really fill in the rest of the gaps.
Yeah.
One thing that people have kind of appreciated more over time is like, hey, this is actually a really faithful adaptation, despite the fact that it's full of puppet creatures and full of songs, and which is like kind of like a really joyous thing, which like people are a lot warmer to this movie now than they were back then, because I think people kind of accept like you can still have a wild adaptation choice, such as including a roster of puppets playing characters. Like it's not just it's Kermit the Frog as Bob Cratchit. So it's a crazy adaptation choice, but I think it works incredibly well. Overall, like it seems like people like it a lot more now. Like it's been 33 years later, and people are ranking this as one of the best Christmas movies ever, one of the most faithful adaptations of a Charles Dickens book overall. Dickensian scholars, they think that this is a very accurate adaptation too, so it's not just like people online saying it. Like it's
not just like millennials that grew up with this movie nostalgic, which is obviously a huge part of it. Like
absolutely, yeah.
People our age that like this is their Christmas movie because we grew up with it, kind of thing. But yeah, when you actually dig into some of the literature, like in like scholarly publications, talking about the costumes, talking about the script writing, like legit that this is this is actually a really good adaptation, and not just from a like nostalgic point of view, but people that like study literature are on board with it.
Yeah, and like even like back then, it didn't really make a ton of money. Like it cost $12 million, but made $27 million, which like it's enough, but not a huge hit. So it wasn't like wasn't a huge blockbuster or anything. But like I think home releases really helped too. People are watching this on VHS. People are watching it. People are nostalgic for the Muppets because after this movie, they did Muppet Treasure Island a few years later. They did Muppets from Space, which no one really likes, and then the Muppets kind of went dormant for a while. But even this movie, like it made similar amount of money to Muppets Take Manhattan, which was made like 7-8 years prior. So it's not a lot of money. So like it's not like these are huge money makers. So it's not like it was a continuing franchise. So people were always like the original Muppet movie is absolutely incredible, but like people kind of never looked at the Muppet movies at the time as being like as good as that first one. But this one is either ranked number 1 or number 2 behind Muppet movie, or like so people have grown. Muppet fans love this movie. Fans of Christmas movies love this movie. It's a really refreshing, quick movie. It's short, like it's 90 minutes, and it's an absolute delight. And also like probably the fact that Michael Caine had like a big career resurgence like a few years afterwards that went for until he retired a few years ago. Like I think people are like, oh shit, like Michael Caine's really good in this movie too. Like it's a great performance against Muppets.
Yeah, it's a fantastic performance, and again, the score is so good. Like, just the soundtrack on its own is incredible. Like even if you don't watch the movie, just having the soundtrack in your like Christmas playlists and that kind of thing. And there's a few like covers on there too. There's some really nice piano versions that exist. Like you can it up a little bit, and Yeah, like there's just, well, and then I also should mention that I own and I am currently wearing one of like my most treasured items of all time. I got it. It's the only thing I've ever bought on Instagram. I saw an ad for it and I mashed buy so fast, which is like, normally I like take days to make a shopping decision. I had this in my cart and checked out in like 3 minutes. And it is a cream colored crew neck sweater that has like red text on it. And it's one of the shots of like the Muppets in the Muppet Christmas Carol on it, like the full cast. You got like Kermit the Frog as Bob Cratchit, Tiny Tim, like Fozzie.
It's the poster, yeah.
It's basically the poster. But because I'm also a Swiftie, which obviously from my last appearance on this podcast where I just talked about the Eras Tour for like hours with you, the words on it in this like beautiful Christmas script say "'Tis the damn season," which is a song off of one of Taylor Swift's albums. And so yeah, "'Tis the damn season." It's Taylor Swift lyrics over top of, you know, festive Muppets from the Muppet Christmas Carol. And like, I love the Muppet Christmas Carol. I love Taylor Swift. I love this crew neck. Mm-hmm. It's great.
Yeah. And there's been a few Muppet Christmas things they've done. They've also like a Muppet Family Christmas, which is a TV special, which is a lot of fun, but it's very hard to find for rights reasons. But hard to find as in it's not on Disney Plus, but it's on YouTube, so it's worth checking out too. There's also a very Muppet Christmas, which isn't very good. But yeah, like Muppet Christmas Carol. I guess we get our final thoughts here. This is a holiday classic. If you haven't seen it, go watch the movie. Like it's like
we've talked about it longer than the runtime.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's a quick hitter. It brings you joy. The songs are super catchy, and it's just super great.
Yeah, this is an awesome movie. It's like the best movie I've done on this podcast yet.
You really can't go wrong.
Yeah.
So, unless you have the version with the song cut out in the middle. That's wrong. There's a wrong way to do this.
Yeah, I guess. But always try to watch the most complete version of the movie possible. But there's a nice bathroom break built into this movie. A nice chance to get some more eggnog. So
I just feel like if you're going to Lord of the Rings extended edition, then you need to full version Muppet Christmas Carol. Like,
that's
it's
true.
An extra 2.5 minutes. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not that long. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Andrea.
Thank you.
Yeah, anything you want to plug?
No, I don't think so. I'm on holidays as of yesterday evening, so I'm planning on just like chilling and having kind of a roly-poly Christmas, hanging around and just eating food. I bought a block of cheese today I'm really excited to get into. And I'm knitting an Icelandic sweater with wool that I bought in Reykjavik last year. And it's just going to be good. So I'm basically just plugging like having a relaxing holiday. No offense. Love you guys dearly. Miss you. Really glad I'm not flying at Christmas this year. Just to relax a little bit and take it easy. And I guess, yeah, the only thing I really have to plug, I not that this is necessarily the audience, but you never know, is that my publishing company just launched a brand new journal on environmental contaminants. So if you happen to be an environmental contaminants researcher, you should get in touch because we've got a brand new journal that we are currently accepting submissions for. So you should make it a New Year's resolution. I would be absolutely shocked if there was overlap in this audience, but you never know. Obviously, scientists love Muppet Christmas Carol and love movies too. So fingers crossed. Maybe this is a match made in heaven.
I'll post your Blue Sky in the description of the episode so people can find that. Hey, who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe this podcast will become huge in a few years' time. Like get thousands of viewers. Like, oh shit! Like everyone wants to learn about contaminants. Yeah,
you should. It's important.
Yeah.
Especially this Christmas. Be careful with mercury thermometers. They're no bueno.
Yep. So MoviePod's continue next week, and recording the episode a little bit early so I can actually have a little bit of Christmas break myself. I'm be joined again by Johnny Amizich, and we will be discussing It's a Wonderful Life.
Which I still haven't seen in its entirety.
That's humiliating. It's like my favorite movie of the 20th century. It's so wonderful.
I have watched like the first chunk of it.
You watched until like George Bailey's life is completely miserable. You never saw any of the
Yeah, no, I think I ended with him like being on a bridge or something.
Yeah, that movie is incredibly indebted to not Muppet Christmas Carol, Christmas Carol in general, with kind of like the showing an alternate life around the holiday season. A lot of the Christian metaphors and imagery that are in the Christmas Carol are in that as well. It's a nice twofer, actually, for the holidays, Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life, because they're very similar kinds of stories.
You know what? Maybe I'll make it a resolution this year that I might actually watch It's a Wonderful Life.
It is one of the best movies ever made. So until next week, where you can listen to me and Johnny talk about It's a Wonderful Life, thank you all for listening, and take care.